All right, hello, chapter 14. Uh, all right, so chapter 14, okay, speciation and extinction. Okay, so in evolutionary theory, species come to form all the time, new species come to form all the time, while others become extinct, okay? Species are distinct from organisms, but the definition of species has changed over time. Okay, so small evolutionary changes, changes from generation to generation are called microevolution. Okay. Eventually, these little steps lead to something called macroevolution, which is slower and results from larger scale changes. Okay. So, okay. Biological species concept defines species by reproduction. If two animals can breed, then they're considered the same species. Um, when individuals cannot breed, then they're considered different species. Okay. Uh, this works great for some things like bugs and stuff like that, but it doesn't work for everything. So things are, fossils can never breed, right? If you're a fossil, you're already dead, so you can never breed. Some organisms have the potential to interbreed, but don't do so in nature. Like lions and tigers, they can actually breed together, but they don't actually do that in nature. Okay. Okay. Um, so DNA, the DNA of the organisms is considered about 97% identical. They're usually considered the same species. Okay. Okay, the biological species concept cannot be applied to extinct organisms because they're already dead. Okay, so okay. Reproductive barriers. Make sure you understand what all these reproductive barriers actually mean. Okay, so the first thing that has to happen before a new species can form is two independent populations of the same species have to be separated into have a reproductive barrier between them. Okay, um, and they can no longer breed or produce fertile offspring for some reason. Okay, so reproductive barriers can either occur before or after formation of a zygote. Okay, so before a formation is called pre-zygotic, after formation, post-zygotic. Okay, habitat isolation, temporal isolation. Okay, so habitat, different location, so population don't see each other, they can't breed. Okay, temporal isolation. Um, this is a little bit more complicated. So there's two species are separated by time. Um, what this means is usually breeding season is a little bit different between the two groups, and therefore they don't breed with each other. Like if you breed in the summer and you breed in the winter, those two groups will never breed together. Um, and it can be weird. Like cicadas, for example, they don't breed for years. So, if you're off by 1 year, then you will never breed. Okay. Um, Behavioral isolation, mating rituals. So you see a lot of different mating rituals between animals. Like for example, flies that I studied, they have a very unique mating ritual where the male plays a song for the female. If you're even a little bit off, the female doesn't breed with you. Okay, so in between species, like there's a bunch of different types of flies. Each fly has a slightly different mating song, and that mating song allows gets the female to agree to breed with you. So behavior drives isolation. Okay. Mechanical isolation. The reproductive organs don't fit in some way, shape, or form. Okay. Gamete isolation. Gametes don't fit in some shape or form. Okay. Okay. Post-zygotic reproductive barriers. Okay. Hybrid infertility. The hybrid is born, but the hybrid is very weak or doesn't get a chance to survive. Hybrid sterility. This is the most famous case of mules. Okay. A mule is half donkey and half horse. Okay. Mules are very hardy animals. They're almost as strong as horses. They are low maintenance like donkeys. Okay. The reason why we don't just breed mules is because mules are infertile. So we always have to start off with donkey and a horse. Okay. There's a lot of different animals they breed together, and some of them, lions and tigers, for example, can breed together and produce ligers. Okay. And these are great. And then the last one, the hybrid breakdown. The hybrid itself is pretty strong, but the offspring of a hybrid breaks down. And you see this a lot in plants. Okay, so pre-zygotic, post-zygotic. Okay. Okay. So, if you understand this, so this is going to be part of your homework assignment. Okay. Okay, reproductive barriers can arise from physical or non-physical separations. Okay, so, allopatric. Patrick is fatherland. Allo is different. Okay, so allopatric speciation usually refers to a barrier, a physical barrier of some sort, like mountains coming up in between them, or being on different islands. Okay, different fatherland. Okay, isolated springs, for example, can lead to patric speciation. There's a lot of places where there's like holes in the ground where the animals can live, and these holes are just kind of separated from one another, and they just can't breed together anymore because they're so different. Okay, sympatric, same fatherland. Okay, so this is one lake. There's a couple of big lakes like this in Africa that actually explain sympatric speciation really well. My favorite one is Lake Victoria because it's a really big, huge lake, and because of this huge lake, there's little nooks and crannies. Each little nook and cranny has their own species of fish, and they're separated from all the other species of fish because these guys, they can live in the nooks and crannies where the water is relatively shallow and calm, but they can't cross the big body of water in the middle, even though it's technically just water. Okay. Sympatric speciation is more easily seen in plants. Plants is actually kind of weird this way. They actually have a lot of different polyploids and stuff. Okay, including wheat is a very common polyploid. This example they use is cotton, but the same thing. The gametes unite to fuse form offspring with more chromosomes than either parent. Polyploid, so poly, many ploids. So chromosomes combination. So a polyploid is reproductively isolated from the parent, so but they grow by themselves, and so they turn into new species. The best example of this is wheat. Okay, the wheat that we is a triple polyploid of 3 different wild type plant species. Okay, and so it's only found in human culture. Like, as a very separate species. Okay. So you can imagine this question here. Okay. All right, speciation can occur at different paces. Okay, so gradualism versus punctuated equilibrium. So this is so what these things can both happen. They both do happen. We try to figure out which one's happening for which species. Okay, gradualism is every generation there's small node changes, and those small node changes add up over long periods of geological time. Okay, punctuated equilibrium or punc-eq is where species remain pretty much exactly the same over a large period of time, and then all of a sudden there's some shift in the environment, and new species arrive very quickly. And by very quickly, we're talking 10,000 to 100,000 years. Okay, that's not quick in human time, but that's really, really fast evolutionary time. Speciation can also occur after mass extinction. Okay, so exactly 65 million years ago, there was a meteor which struck the Earth that killed off all the dinosaurs, and what got left after all dinosaurs died off is a bunch of little holes, niches in the environment where they were empty, and eventually new organisms on the ones that from the ones that didn't die filled in those holes. Like the apex predator became cats, the plant eater became elephants, etc., etc. Okay. Okay. So extinctions, right? So fossil records show 5 massive extinctions. Okay, over time. Um, okay. For example, we know that there's a meteor that hit that became caused the dinosaurs to go extinct. Okay. There's another extinction caused right now. Okay. Okay, biological classification systems are based on common sense. Okay, so you guys learned this already. So skip that. Taxonomy is usually based on the work of Linnaeus, and more features to organisms have in common. There are more taxonomical levels that share. Okay, but the modern way is to use cladistics. Okay, cladistics are based on shared derived traits. Okay, so somewhere along the line, some reptiles developed mammary glands and hair, and this became the forerunner of all mammals. So all mammals start from this point. This is one big, huge claim that includes uh, all mammals. Okay, somewhere in this line, it became a group that only gave live young instead of laying eggs. Okay, and that is this claim right here. Okay, so kangaroos and humans both belong to this clade. And then somewhere in this line became animals that actually made a placenta, and humans are somewhere in that line. Okay. Okay. So cladograms are diagrams that show evolutionary relationships. Okay. So a clade. So this is where taxonomy and cladistics actually differ. Cladistics and taxonomy are really rather close to each other, but cladistics show evolution relationships while taxonomy does not. Okay, for example, cladistics shows that birds are actually more closely related to dinosaurs than any other group. Okay, taxonomy usually makes birds their own independent group called aves. But we understand now, using better science, that birds are a group of what is a subgroup of reptiles, and the closest related things to birds are actually dinosaurs. Okay, and that crocodiles are actually more closely related to birds than crocodiles are to lizards and snakes. Okay. So, so reptiles, for example, do not really form a clade because the true clade would actually include birds as well. Okay. Endotherms form a clade. Okay. And Proteista is definitely not a clade because like all this, so all the yellow Proteista, the green, red, and purple should, if for Proteista to be a clade, then we should be members of Proteista. Okay. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. I will see you guys later.